I was elbow deep in a 40-quart pot of bone broth when my brother told me our father had 6 weeks to live. It was a Tuesday in March. I remember because Tuesday was prep day at Castellanos Catering, and I was already 3 hours behind on a wedding tasting for Saturday. Tyler walked into the kitchen in a suit he didn't own a year ago, leaned against my walk-in, and said it the way you'd announce a weather forecast. Stage 4, pancreatic. Doc says 6 weeks, maybe 8. I put down the ladle. I sat down on a milk crate. I cried for about 90 seconds, and then I went back to work because there were 48 people coming to taste short ribs on Saturday, and Dad would have smacked me upside the head for crying over a pot. That's how we were raised. You work, you feed people. You don't make it about you. My dad opened a sandwich shop in Asheville in 1987 with $2,000 and a used Hobart mixer. By the time I was 12, I was prepping mirepoix after school. By 23, I was running his kitchen. When he had his first heart attack in 2019, I quit my line job in Charleston and came home, and we turned the sandwich shop into Castellanos Catering, boutique hotel breakfasts, winery weddings, the kind of farm-to-table stuff Asheville tourists pay $40 a plate for. Tyler joined 2 years in. He'd dropped out of UNC Asheville twice, sold cars for a while, did some MLM thing with protein powder. Dad said, "Put your brother on payroll, he needs structure." So I did. He handled QuickBooks, scheduling, the LLC paperwork, the business side, the part I hated. By the time Dad got sick, we were doing $800,000 a year, and I had 3 sous chefs under me, 2 boutique hotel contracts, a winery group that booked us for 40 weddings a season, a standing breakfast service at a meditation retreat in Black Mountain. I was on a first-name basis with every event coordinator in 3 counties. Tyler was on a first-name basis with our accountant. Dad died May 9th. We buried him on the 12th. 3 days after the funeral, Tyler showed up at my apartment with a folder of papers and a face like he'd been crying. "Estate stuff," he said. "Lawyer needs us to sign so we can keep the business operating during probate. Otherwise, the bank freezes everything." I signed 17 pages. I didn't read them. My father had been dead 72 hours. I trusted my brother. 2 weeks later, I came in for Monday prep, and my key didn't work. I stood in the alley behind the kitchen at 5:45 in the morning, jiggling the lock, thinking the cylinder had frozen. Then I noticed the camera above the door was new. Then Tyler's truck pulled in. He didn't get out. He rolled down the window and said, "Hey, yeah, we need to talk." He told me, sitting in his truck in the alley while I stood there in my chef coat, that the papers I'd signed had transferred Dad's 51% of the LLC to him as part of the estate restructuring. Combined with the 20% he already had, that made him majority. Then he'd voted himself sole managing member. Then he'd bought out my 29% at fair market value, $18,000, which he said he'd already wired to my account. "It's cleaner this way, Meg. You were going to burn out." Mom agrees. I asked him if Mom knew. He said Mom had been there when they signed it at the lawyer's office. That afternoon, while I sat in my car in a Food Lion parking lot trying to figure out how to breathe, Tyler posted on the Castellanos Catering Instagram. Photo of him in Dad's old apron, standing in my kitchen. Bittersweet news, family. After Dad's passing, my sister Megan has decided to step back from the business to focus on her mental health and family healing. I've bought out her share and will be carrying Dad's legacy forward as sole owner. Big things coming. 340 likes by sunset. 41 comments. Every event coordinator I'd worked with for 5 years, hitting the heart button. I read it standing in the cereal aisle. I read it twice. Then I walked out, drove home, and sat on my kitchen floor with my back against the dishwasher for what I'm pretty sure was 6 hours. I didn't cry. I was past crying. What I did, around midnight, was open my laptop and pull up every client contract I'd ever signed. And that's when I started to smile. The contracts were in a Dropbox folder I'd set up in 2021 because Tyler kept losing the paper copies. He had the login, technically, but he'd never opened it. Why would he? That was kitchen stuff. I scrolled through 42 signed agreements. Hotels, weddings, the retreat center, 3 corporate accounts. And there it was, on every single one, in the same boilerplate clause our lawyer had drafted back when Dad was still alive. Services shall be performed under the direct supervision of Executive Chef of Record, Megan Castellanos. In the event Chef Castellanos is no longer affiliated with the contracted entity, client retains the right to terminate this agreement without penalty within 30 days of written notice. Standard clause. Every catering company that does high-end work has some version of it. Clients aren't buying a business. They're buying a chef. Tyler had never read it. Tyler had never read any of them, because Tyler had spent 4 years signing his name on whatever I put in front of him and calling it running operations. I didn't sleep that night. I made a list. The next morning, I cashed Tyler's $18,000. I wasn't proud of it, but I needed runway. Then I drove to a commercial real estate office in West Asheville and signed a 6-month lease on a 1,400 square foot ghost kitchen off Haywood Road. Old barbecue joint. Hood system already up to code. $2,200 a month. I called my sous chef, Diana, from the parking lot. I told her everything. She was quiet for about 10 seconds, and then she said, "When do we start?" By Friday, I had Diana, my pastry cook Ruben, and my prep lead Marisol. All 3 had worked under me for years. All 3 had watched Tyler swan around the kitchen in his Allbirds, telling them how to plate. None of them gave notice. They just stopped showing up. I didn't call a single client. Not yet. Instead, I spent 2 weeks building. I registered Mercy Kitchen LLC. Mercy was my grandmother's name, and it felt right. I had a friend from culinary school design a logo over a weekend for $400. I ordered business cards. I got the food service license transferred, the insurance, the ABC permit for off-site alcohol service. I called every produce vendor and dairy supplier I'd worked with for 5 years and told them I was starting something new. Every single one said the same thing. About time. Turns out vendors talk. Turns out they knew exactly who'd been running that kitchen. Meanwhile, Tyler was busy. I know because I have a cousin, Renee, who works front desk at one of the boutique hotels we serviced. She texted me on a Thursday. "Your brother just left here. Met with Patricia for an hour. He's telling everyone you had a breakdown." Patricia Huang ran events for the entire hotel group. 6 properties across western North Carolina. She'd been my client for 4 years. We'd done her daughter's bat mitzvah at cost because her husband had just been laid off. That night, Renee sent me a second text. A photo taken through the office window. Tyler at Patricia's desk, leaning back in a chair, laughing. Patricia's face. I knew that face. Polite. Strained. The face she made when a vendor was wasting her time. I almost called Patricia right then. I didn't. Tyler hired a new executive chef the following Monday. Some guy from a chain steakhouse in Charlotte who'd been fired twice for reasons nobody would say out loud. Tyler announced it on Instagram with another photo of himself in Dad's apron. Excited to welcome Chef Brandon to the Castellanos family. New chapter, same legacy. The comments were quieter this time. Patricia didn't like the post. Neither did the winery group's coordinator. Neither did the retreat center. I waited. I waited until Mercy Kitchen had its certificate of occupancy, until the website was live, until I had a sample menu printed on heavy cardstock with photos Diana's husband had shot for free. Then, on a Tuesday morning in early July, 6 weeks to the day after Tyler locked me out. I sat down at my new desk in my new kitchen with a fresh cup of coffee and a list of 42 phone numbers. I started dialing. Patricia picked up on the second ring. I said, "Patricia, it's Megan Castellanos. I'm not with my brother's company anymore. I'm opening my own kitchen. I wanted you to hear it from me," she said. "Megan, thank God. Can you be at my office at 2?" I was there at 1:45. By 3:30, she'd signed a 1-year exclusive with Mercy Kitchen for all 6 hotel properties and triggered the 30-day termination clause on her Castellanos contract that same afternoon. She printed it, signed it, scanned it, and emailed it to Tyler while I sat across from her drinking the bad office coffee. Then she made 3 phone calls. By Friday, the winery group had terminated. The retreat center terminated the following Monday. By the end of week 2, 31 of 42 clients had walked. The other 11 were small accounts, birthday parties, a church breakfast, and most of those followed within a month anyway. Tyler called me on a Wednesday. I let it go to voicemail. He called 4 more times that day. Then he texted, "What did you do?" I didn't answer. What he didn't know, what nobody had told him because nobody owed him anything, was that Patricia's contract had a separate clause, a penalty clause for service interruption mid-season. Tyler had booked her hotel group's entire fall wedding calendar through November, 23 events. When she terminated, she invoked the interruption penalty, refund of all deposits plus liquidated damages, $47,000, due in 14 days. The winery group had a similar clause. So did 2 of the corporate accounts. By August, Tyler owed roughly $110,000 in refunds and penalties he didn't have. Chef Brandon quit when his second paycheck bounced. The new sous chef Tyler had hired walked out mid-shift. Tyler tried to cater a wedding himself the 3rd weekend of August. I heard about it from Marisol, who heard about it from the bride's cousin. He served cold chicken and forgot the vegetarian entrees entirely. The bride's father left him a 1-star review that used the word fraud 4 times. Mom called me in September. First time since the funeral, she said, "Your brother is in a very dark place, Megan. I think you need to help him," I said. "Mom, I'm going to ask you one question, and I want you to think before you answer. Did you sit in that lawyer's office and watch him take Dad's share?" She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "He's your brother." I said, "That's not an answer." And I hung up. Castellanos Catering filed for dissolution in October. The LLC was insolvent. Tyler tried to keep the Instagram account going for a while, posted a couple of pictures of himself looking thoughtful in coffee shops, captioned things like, "Hardest year of my life," and then he deleted it. Mercy Kitchen closed our first year at $1.2 million in revenue. Diana's a partner now. Ruben runs pastry. We hired 4 more people in January. I drive past the old kitchen sometimes. There's a vape shop in it now. My brother thought he inherited a business. What he actually inherited was a building, a logo, and a name on a piece of paper. The business was never the LLC. The business was the woman he locked out of the kitchen at 5:45 in the morning, in her own chef coat, in the alley behind a building she'd built with her hands. You can steal a company. You can't steal the person who was the company. Thanks for staying with me all the way through. Stories like Megan's are why I started this channel. For the underdogs, the kitchen workers, the ones who built something while everyone else took credit. If you felt that final line, leave earned below. Smash like, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.